Segal. Every time I say your name, I think about Beanie. You don't even know who Beanie Segal is, do you?
No, who's that?
He is a big time rapper. Or you probably don't listen. I don't know if you listen to rap music at all.
No, can't really say that I do. I'm aware because I have a very eclectic taste in music, but not usually listening to rap.
Me neither. I cut back on it a lot, but he was a big rapper back in the day.
Okay.
Roundup family, greetings. It is your boy, Chris Haskins. Once again, Friday attorney time, hanging out with attorney Jessica Segal. What up?
Hey there. How are you? Happy Friday.
Jessica,
excited to be here.
I love it. I love hanging out with you, attorney, since the early 2000s, a litigation attorney. So she knows what she's talking about. Our mission is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Today, Jessica has a treat for you to go over your short-term lease agreement. If you don't have it, make sure you download it below and get the discount for today and tomorrow only. Jessica.
Hey, okay, yeah. So listen, I mean, that's, as a trial attorney for 20 years, I tend to take all the cases, all the trials, all the fights, all the lawsuits, and give you guys the information so that you don't have to go through what some of my clients have gone through. And I'm passing that on. I did 2 different presentations this week at local real estate meetups to do just that. Like, hey, let me give you the tips so that you can try and prevent lawsuits. They're inevitable sometimes. But if I can save people the headache, the money, the expense, and the learning experience that some of my clients have gone through, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Yeah, so I love Fridays. I love Fridays. It's the end of the week. I focus on my family, and decompress a little bit is really important. And I try and do like some business building for myself on Fridays. So I love these videos because it kind of puts me in the right frame of mind. Sometimes, we get so caught up in the day-to-day of running your business that you don't actually work on building it.
Yep.
So that's important, I think, for investors to keep in mind too.
Right.
So I believe it was last week, we talked about that article from the San Francisco Chronicle where this basically she was doing rental arbitrage, which I think is a brilliant idea. She would basically take like a 1-year lease in a really desirable vacation area or business district of a town. And then she would rent it out for a nightly rate, like an Airbnb. And so she would negotiate the monthly contract with the landlord as to be the true tenant. And then she would turn around and rent it out nightly.
I like that.
She was killing it. I mean, she was making a few thousand a month, and I'm sure she did it multiple times. And then she was also teaching other people how to do the same thing, right? So we know people out there are doing it. And I know that if you are an actual Airbnb host, and I think you are, so you probably know this, the Airbnb will give you their own agreement, like you're signing an agreement through Airbnb for the short-term rental. But I know a lot of people, and I have clients that don't actually post through Airbnb. They just post it on their own that they provide short-term rentals.
Gotcha.
And I myself, I'll tell you, I went to Rome and I stayed in an awesome like vacation rental, wasn't through Airbnb. Somebody referred me to her. No agreement whatsoever.
Wow.
If I decided,
sorry,
it's going crazy.
1 second, dude. Missy, can you chill?
That's all right.
So you said if you decided what?
Like, what if I decided, hey, you know what? I like living in Rome. I'm going to just stay. What could you have done? And then we read the article from the San Francisco Chronicle, and this woman ended up in handcuffs, charged with a felony because she couldn't get the guest out. So what I recommend for my clients, he or she is a cute one, but man, does she have a strong bark for a little dog.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh my God, adorable. Okay, so so the way around it is to be very clear that you are not creating a landlord-tenant relationship with your short-term guest. Okay, there are different rules for guests who stay in your property versus you actually creating a landlord-tenant situation. And like in California, when this guest refused to leave, the law looked at them as landlord-tenant. Landlord-tenant law applied, and she ended up arrested because she didn't follow the proper eviction, procedures. And so what I tell my clients and what I recommend is have a short-term rental agreement in place that spells out very clearly you are not creating a landlord-tenant relationship. You are a guest in my property.
Wow.
And if you do not vacate at the agreed upon time, law enforcement will be called. Your property will be removed. You're going to be telling it, from the jump that it will be considered trespass in violation of the law if you don't remove yourself. So the agreement that I use and that I made for the viewers, it's a template. It can be used in any state, and you add your LLC as the owner, as the agreement. And I highly recommend, if you're renting out your home, a room in your home, your property, your office, whatever it is, that you're operating out of an LLC. Aw.
LLC, gotcha. I'm listening.
That's okay. I strongly recommend you're operating out of an LLC and not your personal name. You're really putting your home at risk if you're renting out rooms in your house without the LLC in place.
So if you're saying this is for somebody living in the property or room, is this for both? If you're living in it, renting out the room, or
yes,
okay.
Anybody who's renting out a room, whether it's in their house or it's their business property, use the agreement. If you actually have an LLC, the agreement party is the LLC. Okay, use your LLC name as the agreement party owner.
Yes.
If you don't have an LLC, then you would be putting your own name down. Like I said, I don't recommend that, but if that's what you have, then that's what you would put down, the property owner.
Gotcha.
The guest, you're going to include the guest names, and you can only list, the main person renting. I highly recommend you include every single person that's going to be renting the space from you, so that they can't bring in anybody you don't authorize.
Gotcha.
And then there's going to be a space for the address of the property. So when you buy this agreement from us, you're getting the license to reuse it. You can use it repeatedly for any of your properties. You can use it over and over again. When you buy documents from people, you have to make sure you're following copyright laws and licensing laws. Some people sell single-use documents. So this is, we're providing an editable Word document that your viewers can use over and over again. And then there's going to be a spot for property. So in order to make sure that nobody steals something from your space and then is held not accountable, you need to prove that what was there. So I highly recommend, if you're going to rent out your space, take pictures of everything that was in the space and the condition of the space before anybody uses it. And then you're going to list in the agreement everything that's included with the rental, the short-term rental. I typically will put the size of the bed, whether there's a TV or not. Do you have any appliances? Is there a fridge? Is there a toaster oven? Is there a coffee machine? Do you provide flatware cups, pots and pans? Do you provide towels, sheets, things like that? Do you provide bikes or any of those things? You're going to want to make sure you list what's included in the rental very clearly, so that if something goes missing, or if somebody claims, hey, you said that you provided bikes, but there are no bikes here. If you say, listen, I never told you I was going to use a bike, and then the next thing you know, they don't want to pay you. There's a lot of scammers out there.
You're right.
So if you put in the agreement exactly what is included in the nightly rent, there's no room for surprises.
Gotcha.
So you're going to put what's included. And especially, I know it sounds silly, but even some little things, like if you have an in the window air conditioner, okay, like I've seen this. So somebody's had like an air conditioner that's in the window, and an overnight guest removed the air conditioner and left with it, right?
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
But if there was no documentation that the air conditioner was there, either picture or in the document, and you go into court trying and say, I want to be reimbursed for that, how are you going to prove it? So always think like, how am I going to prove that I'm right if I ended up in court?
Speaking like a real attorney. How can you prove it? How can you prove it?
Right. Okay. So then also, like, keep in mind, I have on there maximum occupancy for the space. It may be zoning laws or just maybe your personal preference. But if you think you're renting a room to 2 people and it ends up being 12 college kids and a keg of beer, you might not be too happy.
They do that. I
know. So, put on the agreement what you're limiting the space to, so that if necessary, and you have to ask somebody to leave before the night or the visit is over, you're justified. I have there a spot for when the lease term begins and ends. I highly recommend that you're very clear on that, so that there's no confusion as to when they have to be out. So, when the time of check-in and the time of check-out, be very clear on that. Some places have a minimum stay. If that's relevant to you, I did put that in there. If you're living in like a seasonal place, maybe you're going to have like a 2-night minimum requirement certain times of the year, whatever. I did give you the option for that. Rental rules, paragraph 6 is key. So I attached as exhibit A.
I love this. This is so gangster. I never thought about having an exhibit on the back with all these bullet points.
Yes. Okay, so that right there is worth the money of buying this document. That list of rules are all the basic rules that every property owner is going to want their guests to follow, and then you can add on some custom rules that are relevant specifically to your property.
I love it.
So hold on 1 second. I'm just going to try and pull up some of those rules real quick so we can go over them. I'm just trying to get to that page.
I can read them if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Smoking, I didn't even think about that. Vaping, smoking, because everybody wants to vape now. Not allowed. Pets not allowed. Obviously, we have a pet fee if you want to bring a pet.
Okay.
Cancellation due to weather without penalty is at the discretion of the owner.
Right. Like, especially if you live you're renting out space in an area where there's known to be hurricanes or, severe snowstorms, all of those things factor into how you rent the space.
Gotcha. What time they can go over that stuff?
Maybe you're going to be generous and you are going to allow cancellation, but it should be at your discretion.
Gotcha.
It's also important to point out that there is no daily housekeeping service. If you don't, you want to make sure people understand you're not coming in. If they rent the room for 3 or 4 days, you're not coming in to make their bed. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure they understand that they have to keep the place neat. If there's a specific place where they have to put garbage, you want to give them instructions so that you don't have a problem with, bugs or rodents or anything because they're just dumping garbage anywhere. I have clients, I know people who are very eco-friendly. It's really important to them that people recycle when they stay at their space, and there's very clear recycling opportunities on the property. So in their rules, it's required that you recycle or compost certain, garbage and things like that.
Nice.
So that's nice. Some people are really looking for that. So you're going to want to set out whatever those rules are for your particular property. I think it's really important to spell out also like where people can park. Okay, so that you don't have a problem if they're parking on your neighbor's, spot or whatever. And a general offensive noises are not permitted kind of rule. Don't take for granted that people are, going to maybe play music or be live streaming, streaming movies or different things, and you want to keep your neighbors happy. So I put in there a general quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. But obviously you can change any of these to reflect how you want to run your property.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are very clear also. If you're living in a state in the US where marijuana is legal, you may want to have certain rules about whether that can be smoked in the apartment versus outside. Think of things like cigarettes, vaping, marijuana, all of those things, as they play into what your wishes are for the property. I put in there also the specific fees. So keep in mind, maybe you're charging, maybe you're charging a deposit that is refundable or not refundable. You can put that in there. If you charge a cleaning fee, which most people do, you can include that in there, whatever that amount is. So they prepay for everything. There's a spot there for your cancellation policy. And I split it up. So maybe you charge only a couple of dollars if they cancel in advance versus, the day before. A lot of flexibility there. I put in a paragraph that you're basically not insuring any of their stuff, if they want, they can get rental insurance on their own, but you are not responsible if they leave their things out and they're damaged or stolen or things like that. Now, obviously, you're going to have good insurance. I really hope you have good insurance anyway if you're renting out your property. So, of course, your insurance would cover if a guest of yours has their items stolen or damaged. But it's always good to make them prepare that you don't plan on insuring them. They should get travel insurance.
Gotcha.
And then
I love this. This is not a relationship of landlord-tenant. Good God.
Yeah. So paragraph 11 is the key paragraph to have if you have nothing else. The relationship of the parties paragraph. And it says that it is agreed and understood the relationship between the parties shall be deemed to be one of owner and temporary lodger or guest and does not create a relationship of landlord-tenant. Guest specifically waives the right, and you're going to input your state, whatever state you're in. The guest specifically waives their right to proceed under your state landlord-tenant law.
I love it.
I think when you use this document, you're signaling to your guests you're not messing around. If you advertise on Craigslist or on Facebook or something that you have rooms to rent and you're not doing it through an organized channel like Airbnb or through your own sort of business entity, you're really at risk for someone to take advantage of you. So by using this document, you're sending a message to someone, this is a legitimate business, and I'm protecting my rights in the event you choose not to leave. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at it.
And let's see, then there's just some other, basic legal paragraphs in there about the venue. In the event of a lawsuit, your state, your county is the designated area of venue. So if let's say your property's in Virginia and someone from California decides to stay in your apartment, they can't go back to California and sue you. If they want to sue you, they have to sue you in your home state. It's critical. So you're not creating a risk for yourself that you're sued all over the country.
Nice.
And then again, you're going to sign this document in the name of your LLC or your business name, and your guest is going to sign that they're acknowledging it as well.
Nice. I love it.
And it's unfortunate, I think, that we have to protect ourselves this way, but it's a business, and I've said this over and over again. You have to treat rental properties as a business. And if you treat it as a hobby, you will get eventually sued at some point, and it can be really damaging.
They're coming.
Yes. And you can even, for those of you that are more tech savvy, you can use DocuSign or any of these electronic signature things. When someone's going to make a reservation, you can electronically send them the document. They can e-sign it with their payment. I mean, it can be so easy.
Yeah.
It's not intended to create more headache or paperwork for you.
That's what I like, because even on my Airbnb people, it's like you get their email address, you get their phone number. Like, hey, I'm gonna shoot you this document. Just make sure you get it back to me before you move in. I mean, it's over.
Yeah. There was another article this week, actually, in the paper. I don't remember what state she was in, but she was a single woman who was renting out the extra room in her house. And this man decided he was going to move in, and he was in love with her. And he was not leaving. And she had to call the police. And he clearly had some mental health issues that were of concern. I mean, he was sending her like dozens and dozens of text messages a day. He was sending her flowers. I mean, he had never met her before. He saw her, her room advertised for rent and showed up, and that she basically needed the police to help get him removed.
That is terrible.
So this is a risky business. And so don't take for granted, even if you live in a nice, quiet town, that it can't happen to you. So protect yourself, have the agreement, have some procedures in place to screen people when you're letting them into your space.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Jay. Where did this come from? Is this so? Because I know you do ordinary conventional rentals too.
Yeah.
Where did creating a short-term lease agreement come from?
So it always comes from work that a client has asked me to do because of a crazy situation.
So can you share something happened?
Yeah, so I had a client, and I represent a lot of real estate investors who just was looking for a couple of things. So I set up the LLC for them when they purchased a property. I prepared a lease, a standard 1-year lease for them, for their tenant. And then they had like an extra space. It was like a 3rd floor. It was small. It was basically just like an efficiency room, like a studio. And they were going to advertise it to be used short term. And if somebody needed to just pop into town and needed it for a night or two, they were going to rent it out. And just knowing what goes on in the Airbnb space, I had suggested that they use an agreement. She was a very smart businesswoman, very savvy, and was totally on board. So I basically created the short-term lease agreement from what are standard legal things you'd want in any agreement. And then I tailored it to more of a short-term Airbnb type of stay. I looked at some of the agreements that Airbnb uses, and then I helped craft it to her particular space.
Gotcha.
And then I turned it into a template that anybody can use. So you want to be very clear about editing it for your space. Like, so if somebody has, let's say, a rooftop apartment, you're going to want to make sure there's very clear rules about what you can do on the roof. Or if you have an apartment, maybe in a city that has very specific, bless you, zoning requirements,
Thank you.
You're going to want to tailor it to the town and the type of property that you have.
Gotcha.
So that's typically how I create all these templates. It comes up where I'm creating a product for one of my clients, or as a result of a lawsuit that one of my clients has been involved in. And then I try and tailor it to a template that any of your viewers can use.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that, Jessica. Round Up family, if you don't have the short-term rental agreement, make sure you download it below. We will be implementing it. I've had people hold over a few times in my Airbnb. Never crossed my mind, what if they don't move? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even, but the times that they did stay over, either they overslept or they just didn't care. I mean, they were out. It wasn't even a thought. Like, I'll move out whenever I'm ready to go. Really.
And how did you get them out? Did you just call and ask them to leave?
Yeah, everything ended up being amicable, but it was like I didn't even think, like, your job is to see the holes in the system.
Yeah.
That's what you get paid to do.
Right.
For me, I'm just like, okay, I guess everybody will leave when they're supposed to leave, but that doesn't work like that.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I see all the negatives, I guess, in the business, and then I create a solution so that it doesn't happen to other people, right?
Yeah.
So I try and help my client at that very moment get out of that problem. And then how can we prevent this from happening to other people? And that's how I created the document.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that, Jay. I really do.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, listen, I want to help as many people as I can. I think that's my way of giving back.
Yeah, well, you are. Round up, family. If you got any questions, real quick. If not, we're gonna get up out of here. I didn't see any come in. Somebody did mention that there was another felony case in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
For Airbnb host. Guess it's happening. I think Airbnb, I hope it's here to stay, but it's just so new. I don't think that we know all the problems that hadn't been worked out yet.
Yeah. And the other thing too is when you do a short-term rental, you're not running a criminal background check or a credit check like you would if somebody was renting for a year.
Yeah.
So you really truly have no idea who's coming to stay in your space, how they're going to treat your space. And they could be renting the space to do a major drug transaction. Right?
People rent it. I'm going to tell you what happened. People will rent it. It won't even be that person. They'll rent it. They'll have a party. I mean, people smoking and drinking. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't. For some reason, people they'll get somebody else to rent it for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they live right in the same town. They just come in and mess your stuff up without messing their stuff up.
Right, because they feel like there'll be less consequence than if they went to the Holiday Inn or some hotel. Yeah. So it's important if you're going to do Airbnb to have proper, I think, cameras, security, take some measures to keep an eye on especially if you're out of town, especially if it's not like where you live and you're the one personally doing the check-in and out.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody has a good weekend. If they have any questions, I'll try and go back in after the replay and respond.
They can put them down. Round Up family, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you, Jessica. Like the content, to give us a thumbs up. And we'll see you next week for Attorney Time.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, Jay.
Bye. Take care.